Brilliant, what a dummy!
Welcome back to the Fantasy Rugby Draft podcast. Thanks for downloading and listening. I'm Bruce Wilkinson, and joining me again in the booth is the man primarily made of moss, Nathan Mossman. How are you?
I'm very well. Doesn't it feel that since we've made the move to the video medium, that coming back to podcasts, it sort of feels like what I'd imagine it would be like for Clooney, having gone from ER to movies to try and come back to TV. You know, it just doesn't feel quite the same.
It's a very good analogy, actually. Very, very good analogy.
Yeah, if you're wondering, yes, just compared us to Clooney.
Yeah, that's right. Our acting ability is second to none.
No, I'm joking, of course. It's great to be back.
Excellent. We're recording this Thursday, the 14th of July. It's finals week. It's finally here.
Yeah, no pun intended.
Exactly. In some ways, I guess, it's the greatest week of the year, but I guess you can't kind of look at this week with that tinge of sadness as well, and that it's 12 months till we're back in the same position again. It's very melancholy-ish.
Yeah, it is. It's also one of those situations, you know, where coaches, like straight after the grand final or the Super Bowl, will be talking about next season. You know, we've moved on to next season. Yeah. So, yeah.
Let's see.
The planning's already started.
Let's see if how many of our managers are proverbially on the beach.
Yeah.
Mossman alluded to a reminder that we'll do your start bench questions again tomorrow in the Facebook Live session. Kick off again at 6:30 New Zealand time. See if we can get those last minute decisions. There are going to be some teams that are named overnight and also late on Friday, with the Hawaii's team most likely going to be named then as well. So we can field all your questions. We'll do about 30 minutes. I think it seems to be working well. A few folks seem to be getting a little bit of value at it, which is cool. It's also a pretty tough time in the season, right? You're trying to analyse what coaches are thinking, what players are thinking. Some have got nothing to play for, and some are resting players. We did pose the question on our FRD Hall of Fame Facebook group, which, by the way, if you haven't already joined, you should. There's a lot of good stuff going on in there, and there's a lot of questions being posed by the guys, start bench questions as well as some strategy type stuff, so it's really good. But we chucked it on there and just asked them whether FRD should go into the final week or not, or whether it should finish a week earlier, just to get around the likes of, the Stormers got nothing to play for, the Bulls may have nothing to play for. Where do you come down on that? I looked at the Facebook group has spoken, but what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that I think we should play out into the last week, and I think the fact that we're talking about certain scenarios where people are being rested, 2 weeks ago, the Highlanders rested a whole bunch of guys that didn't make the trip I think it was to play the Sunwolves, wasn't it?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, didn't make that trip, right? So that was 2 weeks out from the end of the season. Kings, sorry, yeah. Yep. So these things happen, and they can happen not just at the last game of the season. It's just the nature of this competition. That occasionally that's going to happen, and if the chips sort of fall the way they have in this final weekend, so for the Kings, but it could equally have been last week. It could have happened last week.
No, absolutely, and that's what most of the folks said as well, is that more fantasy rugby draft is better than less fantasy rugby draft, but it is quite a cool kind of extra dimension added to the end as well. That you need to be able to be that next level coach. You need to kind of take all of these decisions and all these factors on board and come out with the right answer. It's a bit of a scramble during the week to keep up with team news and trying to infer what coaches have to say in the press, but it adds an extra dimension anyway. Some like it, some don't. Right, let's crack into Blues Waratahs, fairly settled Blues team. Jerome Kaino in a fairly good nick, and Luatua in fairly good nick. Piers Francis kicking goals again, and Nanai playing well. George Moala is bracketed on the bench, as is Sione Mafaleo, who I actually think was one of the answers to our pub questions last night, wasn't it?
What was the question?
Wasn't it in that music round? Isn't he an opera singer? You had opera group?
So, yeah, it's close enough.
Yeah, that's right. Close enough for me anyway, shall we put it that way. What do you think of the Blues versus the Waratahs, just as a general game flow? Because the Waratahs were handed themselves last week, as were quite a few Australian teams.
The Blues seem to be coming home with a wet sail. Is that a phrase? I think that's the phrase that means that they're coming home strong. Is that right?
It is, yes.
What does that even mean? Like,
don't know.
Does a wet sail make it go faster? I wouldn't have thought it does.
Does it cut through the air cleaner? Not sure if it's wet.
Or is it wet because you're going fast and spray's sort of jumping up?
Interesting. Yeah, it could be that.
Oh, hopefully there's someone out there with some sailing experience that can explain it, which is not us. But the point is that I think the Blues are coming home strong, and I think they'll put in a strong performance here. Last game of the season, obviously they put in a really strong performance last week, and I think I'm expecting to see more of the same.
I think so too. There's a little bit of rain about. There's been a little bit of rain about for a few days, but I think this will be all right. I think the Waratahs they can only play better. That was a pretty dire performance. Not as bad as, say, the Brumbies, but pretty dire performance. Reece Robinson comes into their team, and they've had a little rejig in the loose forward trio.
Let me put it this way. It's probably the most succinct summation I could have. Outside of Folau and Hooper, I would take the opposite numbers in this game for the Blues in a straight head-to-head if I had to choose a player. So I'm taking Nanai over Callaway. I'm taking Lee and Duffy over Carraro and Robinson.
Sorry, I just about threw up there. Did you say Duffy?
Absolutely, yeah.
I know, if it's true though, right?
No, it is. I literally think in every position obviously, Ehire West is a slightly dodgy one because he's not kicking and Foley, but I'm not expecting Foley to do anything special here.
No, that's right. We do have a couple of questions on him a little bit later, but all right, Reds Rebels. So we didn't really get too many examples of who's going to be kicking goal for the Reds last weekend. There was one conversion that was missed, but it was with Henry Tafu. I think they'll go a little bit better against the Rebels this week, and they've only really changed the fullback with Tom Banks coming in and Tuttle going back to the bench. For the Rebels, who got on the end of quite a big pantsing from the Satyrs, they've brought in Paul Asquith at 15. I don't know much about him, but I will say that Bruce Baxter did some wonderful coaching up in the Hall of Fame group with a bit of a YouTube clip of his finest moments. He is a little bit of a kicking goal as well. I still think it'll be Jack Debrashini, but there's an outside chance he might kick goals. So just keep an eye on that as well, or something to be aware of. How good is Sefa Naivalu? In an 85-point thrashing, he looked brilliant.
Well, he's just one of those guys. He's just electric. And it's definitely crept up on me, the fact that he's scored 9 tries this season. And he only effectively played half a season there or thereabouts, because he was in the triangle for a long part of that.
He wasn't. That's right. He was in the wilderness. Reece Hodge, he did a nice chip and chase to score that try as well. I think he'll go quite well. I think there's a lot of players that potentially could win you a fantasy rugby draft title in this fixture. Weather looks pretty good over there as well. There's a bit of a defence optional in this type of game for both of these teams, and these teams are proverbial on the beach as well. I'm hearing some stories about the Rebels and a few player unrest stories and bits and pieces like that, but I think there's some points here. Yeah,
well, it's going to be effectively a testimonial match, and
yeah.
I think it could be the Samu Karevi testimonial. I think.
Yeah, that's right.
He's definitely one here that could run up, but somebody like him, you're obviously playing him anyway, so it's not really something special. I guess outside of that, I still think you're perhaps digging a little deep. If you got this far, you probably did it having a fairly settled block of players, and I'd actually tend to stick with those guys.
Okay, and we have some questions coming up, especially around Henry Tafu.
Yeah.
He's probably one that you'd want to pick out that you may not ordinarily have got through the season with. He's just come on the radar fairly late. Just a little point to note, seeing Jack Maddock on the reserve bench for the Rebels is good, up and coming, looks pretty talented. Sharks Sunwolves. You were right last week. The Sunwolves just look cooked, burnt, whatever the sun does to you. They're done. I mean, who knew that not having a pre-season would actually have this type of effect?
Yeah, and once again, it was the 50 points. I mean, I think I said at the time that a 30 to 40 point loss would have been a good result. Yeah. Well, they didn't get the good result, and they'll be staring down the barrel of something very similar here, I would have thought.
I think so as well. Can you name me anyone from the Sharks that you're not starting? That's a bit of a loaded question, but for me, it's a roundabout way of saying, geez, just pile on the Sharks. Pile on, because they don't know the result yet. They have to win. They have to put the pressure on the Bulls.
Yeah, I guess so. Somebody like Reino Smith, who's an unknown quantity, I'm not going to put him in ahead of somebody that has perhaps got me so far this season.
What about his opposite number?
Viljoen. Yeah, no, I would put him ahead of him, but okay. I guess I'm thinking of. I'm not rating Reino Smith highly, for instance. Like, I'm not going to play him ahead of Fadders, for instance.
Are you not?
No.
Okay. I might think about that.
Okay.
Quite strong. That might be a bet coming up, actually.
Well, you keep thinking about it.
Well, I just think he's playing at 13. That's going to be a bit of a. You got Tamanavalu there. I think it might just be a little bit of an arm wrestle. Well, I think there's points in it, but I'm not sure how much Faddis will get on the end of it in that midfield. So Ungara has come in at halfback. Oosthuizen plays. Paul Jordan not playing. The story with Pat Lambie, I'm not sure if you saw this, but they wrote to Sansa, the Sharks did, because they wanted to get dispensation to allow him to play in the playoffs, because you have to be. Now, I don't know if you actually have to hit the field or whether you have to be in the match day 23 to be considered, for 4 times, to be considered eligible in the playoffs. The Chiefs are doing the same thing with Liam Messam. But the Sansa came back to the Sharks and said, no, Lambie has to play. We're not giving him dispensation, which is ridiculous when you think about it, right? In the age of player safety, right? And they're saying that, all right, he may not be perfectly 100% from the concussion protocol, but yeah, sure, you have to play him if you want to be in the playoffs. Madness.
It is, but it's actually a good thing for April owners, I think, because effectively what it's going to do is that they're probably going to get him out there, but it'll be somewhere late in the game with no risk.
Totally agree.
So it could be a couple of minutes in, because I would have looked at that on the surface of it and sort of Lambie on the bench. That's could be a little bit dicey. Could we see a half from him? I don't think we're going to see that. Not under the circumstances you've just talked about.
I'm not even sure he's going to replace Garth April when he comes on. I think they'll sneak him onto Undangani's wing and just take him off for the last minute.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be really farcical. I don't know if there's a minimum minutes you need to play to be considered a cap or something. I just don't know the rule, but we are going to get into a farcical situation, I guarantee it. There's a few changes for the Sunwolves, but I'm not going to stress too much about them, to be honest. Viljoen's an okay-ish play, but I'm probably not going to look at many of those players. Crusaders Hurricanes, so your boy Willis Holoholo comes out 1, and Ngani Laumapi comes in at 12.
It's a better looking midfield, isn't it? It's quite a dangerous looking backline all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm. No, it is. I did see someone, I can't remember who it was actually, they made the point that they were going to miss Matt Proctor's line breaking ability, which I kind of raised one eyebrow to, and that kind of Dr. Evil type raised one eyebrow. I think Holoholo, from what we've seen at 13, actually provides a little bit more of a spark, but hey-ho. Maybe they're thinking of Proctor in the ITM or the Mitre 10 Cup as it's called this year. The Crusaders have only really shuffled one. There was talk about Jordan Taufua coming back a little bit earlier, but they've put Jimmy Tupou on the side and Pete Samo, who actually has been playing 12 for, I think it's Burnside and Christchurch for a couple of games as well. He's lightning quick, and he showed it in that game. And there's not much to do about that, but it was just an interesting note. How do you think this game's going to go in general? Do you think this is going to be a tight one?
No, not really. They don't tend to be super tight, these games anyway, do they? I mean, what I mean is that there's always points. The New Zealand derbies, they can be low-ish scoring, but still provide quite a lot of points. Yes,
the old bend but don't break ethos, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of the time it is. There's still action, I guess.
Five Fafita is another good, he's a player that's been playing quite well of late. Much more to say about this before we jump on to your favourite Highlanders?
I don't think so, no. I mean, I think my philosophy just generally, and it definitely applies to this game and the next one we're going to talk about, is that those guys are solid, proven performers, and I think you're pretty much going to stick with them. You're not going to get too cute. I still think that playing somebody like Patrick Osborne instead of finding say a Stormers winger, for instance, sticking Van Veek in there.
Van Veek, yep.
Yeah, who on the surface of it looks like quite a good option, but for me, I just still think that that's getting a little bit cute.
Mm-hmm. No, look, I agree. What are you going to be most upset with when you look back and something happens on a Monday, right? Is it going to be Patrick Osborne scoring? Is it going to be Van Wyk scoring? I think you'd be pissed off a bit more if you had Patrick Osborne on your bench. Okay, let's move on to the Highlanders Chiefs game. The Highlanders Chiefs game. Liam Messam coming in at 8. Actually, just to go back quickly for the Crusaders one, their front row. We had a discussion last week which front rows we should go towards, and as it turned out, both the Chiefs and the Crusaders were very, very good. Nathan Harris just adds that extra bit of oomph, and as I say, he's got white boots and sits on the sideline a lot, just inside the sideline, I should point out. You like their Chiefs front row this game?
I do, yeah. They've managed to turn things around, I think, a little bit. They were looking a bit shaky early part of the season. I don't think it's not a concern anymore.
No, agreed. No Charlie Ngatai, unfortunately. You could probably cut him now. Although, if you've got this far, right, with him on your bench, you probably should take him in as your good luck charm. the Tebow effect.
There'll be a few players like that, yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually I was looking around to pick up Aiden Toa. but in all of the leagues that I'm in a final with, he's been owned by someone that either nowhere near the finals or is just sitting there with dead weight. So it's a bit of a shame I can't take him into the final with me.
Yeah, well, I think at 5 to 7 on Friday night New Zealand time, Peter Grant will be making an appearance. I think he's deserved it. He's a winner, and I think just having that guy in the squad will just boost it.
Yeah, that's right. There's a few people who are asking the question about Aaron Cruden. It sounds like you're not getting too cute. You're going to play him. What about him versus someone like Nicolas Sanchez?
I would play Sanchez, but I don't see that as cute. I think a home game against the Lions B team.
Okay, fair enough. What about Tian Skoman then? I get the point.
Probably not. I think I'll probably stick with Cruden. Skoman, he's been disappointing actually in the times that he has come on.
Yeah, he has, and I'm not sure the Cheetahs is that much of an easy beat as we thought.
Especially not for a Bulls team that probably won't have anything to play for by the time they get out into the
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Gus Neethling asks, Reds, Sharks, or Highlanders front row?
I guess you have to go for the Sharks, don't you?
Mm-hmm. And JP or Pulu?
I'd go JP.
Yep, so would I. Alex Greenleafs ask Laumapi, Hodge, or Pulu? Or rank those three, sorry.
Yeah, it's kind of close. I'm leaning towards Hodge.
Mm-hmm. That was my number one.
Yeah, and then probably Laumapi, Pulu.
Yeah, I went the other way. I went Hodge, Pulu, Laumapi. I think that Crusaders game might be a little bit tighter than the Highlanders Chiefs game.
Is Fonetier playing at centre?
No, he's not. Crotty's at centre and Havili's at 12.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good. It's a relevant question. Yeah, that's right. Come down, Mr. Matt Faddis. Andre Muller asks Ungara or Kerbalo?
Ungara.
Mm-hmm. It's the same for me as well. Brumbies Force, we actually do have both of those teams, and they're fairly settled. I expect the Brumbies to come back with a little bit more vengeance, and the Force is a pretty good matchup with them. Chris Dakin asks, Fonetier, Awong, Haloholo, or Anton Leonard-Brown? And he makes the point of it's hard not to be bitten by the Brumbies players, but I think being a fantasy rugby draft manager, you need to have a short memory, like an opening batsman.
That's right.
And just play the ball that's at you.
Yeah.
Or shoulder arms, as I like to do.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you. I think that the Brumbies will have a bit of a bounce back here. I'm not willing to throw away those players who've been pretty decent all season, so I'd expect our Wong to probably go okay in this one. Not that I don't like Haloholo, but I think he'd just edge it.
So you go Awong, Haloholo, Anton Leonard-Brown?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm happy with that. Yeah, I go Awong, and I do go Haloholo over Anton Leonard-Brown as well. Although I got bitten last week when I went with someone that wasn't a Christchurch Boys High School man. Stormers Kings. We don't have either team yet. Both locks have been rested for the Stormers, so Peter Steph-Toit and Ebden Edzebeth, which is a bit of a shame. Both of them, actually I haven't checked, but they must be up there in the top 3 with Jed Holloway in terms of scoring points or average points per game.
Yep, for sure.
But there's noises that they're playing the full team, even though they can't they can't improve their position. I guess we'll see overnight whether that's just a little bit of cat and mouse. But something I just thought I've seen recently, there's something to just be aware of. I'm not sure if it's useful, but just to just kind of stash it away, is the Blitzbokker squad gets named this morning as well in South Africa. So I'm just wondering if there may be a Liam Messam situation where some players may be released from that. I'm thinking of De Jong and I'm thinking of Colby if they don't make it. Now, I think they probably will make it, but just something to be aware of. Anything more? Well, do you want to say anything about this match without teams?
It is tricky. I agree that, I've heard the same that they'll play quite a strong team, the Stormers. I think there's still some room for possibly some other guys to come in. I'm just wondering about whether they'll give Robert Dupree some game time, for instance, ahead of it's his brother, isn't it? Jean-Luc
du Plessis. So not quite his brother, no.
What did I say?
You said Robert Dupree.
Oh, Dupree.
Dupree's and Duplessis.
Sorry,
and Dupree's
sorry. There is a brother though, isn't there? It's
There is somewhere.
Yeah. Daniel. Yep. Is it Daniel Dupree?
Something like that.
He plays for the Sharks. Yeah. Okay. Now that we've cleared that up.
Well, Jean-Luc Dupree and Daniel Dupree play for the Sharks. I'm not 100% sure if Robert Dupree is related.
I think they are. I think there's a Robert Dupree Senior, and he's got 3 sons, and they all play.
Right.
I could be wrong, but I think that's right. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, no doubt we're going to have some South African listeners calling one of us an idiot.
Because I think Robert Dupree Senior is a coach at the Sharks.
Okay. Sure.
Anyway.
All right.
Yeah. So
we digress.
Family history with the Duprees.
Yeah, so the Duplessis, he got a bit of a head knock as well in that Force match. Like a really big clattering. I actually sat myself through watching 80 minutes of that the other morning. Gee, that's entertaining. In that rain, that was terrible. Yeah, but he got quite a big, he got his bell rung. So I guess we'll see if he's started. And yeah, I think you're right. Robert Dupree is floating there and thereabouts. Cheetahs Bulls. Jesse Creel went okay. Didn't look sparky as kind of as we'd hoped. He didn't let anyone down, I guess, but we're expecting a little bit more from him. Do you think? A lot of people are asking about Tenscombe, and we touched on it previously. He's been pretty poor, but I guess first question is how much of an uptick do you think playing the Cheetahs at Bloemfontein is?
Not that huge, to be honest. Not for a Bulls team that's been pretty underwhelming themselves.
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously, last week notwithstanding. But no, I don't think it is much of an uptick. And I'm not particularly high on any of the Bulls players.
No, that's right. I think Sumo Stevenson said it best on his podcast this week. He said they're just not that batshit crazy as we were hoping. So yeah, that's quite good. So there's a lot of people listening that probably are just listening at a Courteous who got knocked out by Pete Van Sale and his 10,000 points at halfback. One of them being this podcaster. But yeah, Jannis Kirsten, he did all right for you last week and played well. I guess a few people are going to look at Travis Ismail in this type of matchup. And I guess that's probably fair enough, but again, I wouldn't give the Cheetahs. It's not a massive boon for them to be playing the Cheetahs.
No. I mean, that said, so I'm slightly down on, say, Sergio Peterson. Mm-hmm. So there's one guy, so I was talking about players that have kind of got me this far. He's one that I'm potentially moving away from just in this last week. So I'd probably look at, say, Van Wyk over Peterson as that 1 week kind of matchup based play.
Yeah, he got gassed again during the weekend. I saw that. It was only really chasing a ball down that was going dead anyway, but someone ran past him. It's a bit odd. I don't know what happens there. It just switches off.
And just interesting that you raised the point about Pete Van Sale, which made me think of was it the week before, the previous week? Where
is he a brother of Robert Dupree as well?
yeah, he is. So I just want to talk a little bit about the Van Sale family. So his grandfather was actually Matt Lucas scored a lot of points against the Sunwolves as well, and obviously then Van Sale does. Well, we love a theory.
We do love a theory.
So maybe this is pointing to Mr. Angara to have a big game. You never know. There might be something to it. You never know that perhaps their defence around the rucks gets a bit loose.
And we're always a bit of a fan of alliteration. So Angara, he's Hungara. That works, right?
That's not alliteration. That's
I'll grab my coat.
Alliteration is when they have the first and last names have the same letter.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Which one's onomatopoeia?
That's where the word sounds like kind of what it means.
Or is that grunge band that's playing at the Union tomorrow night? Anyway, we digress. The line's Jaguares. So I'll get your take on what Ackerman's doing, but it's, for me, absolutely bonkers, considering they played the Kings last week. Just absolute madness that he's gone this way about to rest his team. But he's obviously really worried about this trip. So just for those that have been living under a rock, so the Lions named pretty early on in the week a B team. Still fairly some good names in there. It's a fairly good team. Jaco van der Walt is probably someone that a few folks are going to be looking at. So Alex Greenleaf asks a really good question. So Piers Francis, Zerlinger, and Tian Skoman. So just look at those three first.
I think I'd go Piers Francis.
Yeah, I might too. What if I throw Van der Walt in there? How are you? Sorry, okay. Let me start at the start. How are you expecting the Lions to play? Do you expect? Because a lot of people are saying that this is a B team that's going to get trounced. Do you feel that way?
I don't think they'll get trounced, but I do think they'll lose.
Yeah, so do I. I do too. And I think one of the New Zealand teams is going to come over the top of them. Probably. It's just absolute madness to me.
I think what he's hoping, obviously, is that one of the New Zealand teams one of the lower ranked New Zealand teams will knock one of the higher ones out and open that door for them to get that home final back.
Yeah, sure, but leave it in your own hands.
No, sure. No, I understand that. Yep. The only thing I'd say is that I've heard people that, even just journalists that have made the trip, similar to, over to Argentina and they talk about how taxing it is.
Yeah.
That sounds like I'm talking about extracurricular activities.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
What the journalists have been up to while they're there.
We know what it's like in Buenos Aires. We've talked about the Ibiza nightclub with the strobe.
When you get to South America and proximity to certain...
That's right. And they've all got the meat
it.
sweats on the plane back.
Oh, yeah.
God, that first class would be terrible smell. So where would you put Jaco van der Walt in the pantheon of those fly halves?
I mean, he's a player that hasn't played a lot recently either.
No, he's come back from injury as well, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, look, I'm still going to stick with Piers Francis. I mean, he's got a couple of things going for him. Well, I'd say he's probably got three things going for him. The first is that the Blues actually are looking pretty good. He's obviously goal kicking and he's playing at 12 and he's getting his hands on the ball and running a lot.
Mm-hmm. Two first names as well. You haven't put that on the list.
I forgot about that. Yeah, is that alliteration? Oh.
Touche. Where would you put Jaco ahead of, comparing to Zerlinger and Skoman?
Wow. It's desperate times, I think, if you're choosing between those guys.
Yeah, but people have got Janjties and they've got Lambie and they've got a few of the
I guess so. I mean, you're really hoping that Garth April's out there, aren't you?
Yeah, no, he was snapped up a long time ago.
No, look, if I had to split them, I would say... I might give Van der Walt a go here.
Yeah, I think I would too. Yeah, I'd slot him in at number 2 there. It's really difficult as well because we haven't seen him at 10. We haven't seen much of him at 10. He's always come on at 15 or somewhere in the outside backs as well. I quite like Sylvain Mahuza here as well. I still think he'll go quite well. I think he's a fairly decent option for those folks that lost out on the whole Mapoe, Combrinck, Skosan train.
Do we know that Jaco van der Walt kicks goals?
Yeah, he does. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. No, I'd be surprised if anyone else in that team was kicking goals.
I just wanted Ross Cronje with the big C next to him.
Sure.
Assume the mantelpiece.
Yeah, that's true. I'll take it all on my shoulders, folks. Yeah. And he's Hansi's brother, right?
Well, there's a story about that.
So Lions front row. A lot of people, and I think you and I have had a discussion about this. I was a little bit surprised that I heard that someone in your league had dropped the Lions front row this week. It's still with Aka van der Merwe in there, and Dylan Smith on the bench as well.
Sure.
I think that's a bit of a stretch, and especially if you're looking around for someone else. I guess Sharks might be the only team, but if I got this far with the Lions, there's no way I'm letting them go with Aka van der Merwe still there. He was part of the reason why they did so well when Marks was out, like from a fantasy perspective.
Okay, so how far down the pecking order are we talking then? So I guess you still like the Canes, you like the Crusaders. Do you like the Brumbies more than the Lions?
Probably, and I say that really begrudgingly, but they had a penalty try as well last week against the Blues, and they just looked like they could score every single time, and from about 30 metres out.
Okay, so Sharks, I guess you're going to throw those.
No, I'll go Lions.
You go Lions?
Yep.
Okay,
I would. Yep.
Blues.
No, look,
Blues,
as I say,
Jags. Okay, so you're still.
It's a bit of a blind loyalty, to be honest,
Sure.
because they've got me that far, and they've only really taken they've taken 2 or 3 players out for that front row, but those guys that were on the bench do score fantasy points as well.
That's true, yeah. They were more of a collective effort, just as opposed to just being, say, one player.
Yeah, just Dan Coles.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, Ian Struzner asks, Nadolo, Naholo, DHP, Mvovo, Tauto, which is not the source, and Montero.
He asks, what did he ask?
He's just bragging, I think. I'm not sure he asked a question.
Was there a question in there somewhere, or was it just...
I'll rank those. So take out Nadolo.
Yeah.
So then you've got between Naholo, DHP, and Mvovo. Really. I don't think you're looking at Chakatato and Montero with any seriousness.
No. I'll take Mvovo.
And Naholo? Or DHP?
Yeah. No, I'm a little bit down on DHP, I think.
Go your studs?
Yep.
Yeah, fair enough. Alright, that's probably much for this game here. Do you want anything to chat about specifically about this game?
About this game?
Yeah.
No, but I do think that, like I said earlier, that the Jags, it'll be party time for them. I would have thought the strobe lights will be out. They'll be looking to finish strong. Come home with a wet sail.
Circle gets the square. We do have a selection of questions from that Facebook Fantasy Rugby Draft Hall of Fame group. So Lars Davison asked the question, Hugh Jones or Fekitoa? He got a lot of response, or a few responses, which is really good. Who do you think?
Ooh.
That's one of your questions. That's your type of questions you're asking with the Van Fake, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. This is it's in that zone where you're looking at it and thinking, okay, there's this quote unquote great matchup versus a better quality player. And I guess as a general rule, I will stick with the better player, and I think I'll stick with Fekitoa here. Although, let me think about this. And obviously we'll have to wait till we see the team. Fekitoa hasn't been great recently.
No.
And I think we think that's because he's been at 12.
Yeah, and he is at 12 again.
Yeah.
It's tough, isn't it? It's really tight.
It is, and it'd be one of those things where you've just been plugging Fekitoa in all season, and you get this far, and then you're sort of looking at Hugh Jones, and you'll kick yourself if Hugh Jones lets you down. But I can understand the rationale, obviously, of playing him. I guess I'd want to see the rest of the Stormers team as well. It's not just about him.
Yep. That's a good call. I guess, Lars, it's a short way about checking in tomorrow at our Facebook Live. We may have made our mind up then.
I mean, like, if he's named in a full strength team, then I'd probably lean towards him. If I felt that there was, they weren't necessarily giving it 100%, that might sort of make me lean the other way.
And he's not likely to be one of the players that if they started with a full team to come off, because he isn't necessarily part of that that starting lineup anyway,
That's true.
that back line. So there may be something there as well. Sam Konoski asks, Mahuza, Ishmael or Ndungani?
I'll go Ndungani.
Would you?
Yep.
Oh, God. He had this question this afternoon, and I was stewing over it as I was taking the dog for a walk. And I couldn't get... I looked up Ndungani's stats. The last time he played, he got 1 run meter. It's like, how can I recommend someone who has got 1 running meter? He looks cooked, by the way, as well. I mean, good career, solid career, but he just doesn't look like he's got anything left in the tank. But neither did the Sunwolves.
Yeah, that's right.
Neither did the Sunwolves. So I actually went Mahuza. But, look, as I said at the top when we're going through the Sharks-Sunwolves game, find me a player you don't want to start in the Sharks team.
Well, I guess that the other concern is I could imagine the Jags, if they get on top early, that I'm not saying that the Lions will quit on it, but they could quit on it.
Interesting. They could, yep. And I mean, we talked about it a good couple of 3 months ago that the Jaguares team slowly looks like they've got some of this cunning plan when they got back to Argentina to start playing the players that they should have been playing at the start of the competition. And it seems to be happening now. And I mean, they were never going to beat the Highlanders last week. There's too much at stake for the Highlanders to win that game. But they look pretty decent against some okay teams. I mean, the Bulls, they're going to be one of that. They're going to be fighting it out with the Sharks for that wild card.
Yeah.
James Bailey asks, JPP or Jet Li?
Peterson.
Yep. I don't think that's too difficult as well. No. Okay, that's probably about the review for the week. Do you have anything from any of these games that you want to talk about? Any players?
The main player for me that I've kind of I kept my eye on in the sense that I was watching to see what would happen with Lambie is Garth April. There's a couple of reasons for that. Obviously, it's a great matchup. The other thing I think is just that the way that the Sharks play. I think that they won't necessarily come out and be scoring a shitload of tries right from the word go. And I did read an article that was sort of talking about how they don't want to play into the Sunwolves' hands by going to play this sort of helter-skelter rugby. They'll try and build scoreboard pressure, and they'll do that by kicking goals. And that sort of suggests to me that April's still going to get plenty of opportunity to kick goals, and could kick a few. And obviously he's a threat to run as well. I mean, it could all break open later on, and anything could happen. So for me, he's the guy that I think could be the one that when we're talking next week, it'll be about how Garth April, who was a nobody, won you your title. Yeah,
that's right. And I think there's not many fly halves out there this week that I'd want over April. He's got a real big, promising matchup, and he plays that type of game that could break down a really wary Sunwolves defense. You made mention of next week when we have a wrap-up, so we're pretty flat out in the Fantasy Rugby Draft bunker underneath Rangitoto at the moment, so we will do a wrap-up show and review the final game week at some stage, but it may not be a few days, so just kind of bear with us. Anything more from you, mate?
No, just wondering if Tina Turner's going to come in to sing Simply the Best for the grand final.
That's right, the old Winfield Cup days.
Yeah.
Those are great cigarette sponsors everywhere. Rothmans. A little bit of admin. You can follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Rug Draft. It's Fantasy REG Draft. Or drop us a note at support@fantasyrugbydraft.com. Mossman's on at Nathan Mossman. Good luck, everybody. I hope you enjoy it. Hide behind the couch. Get your favourite beer, whatever you do. But good luck, and we'll speak to you on the other side of the weekend. Thanks for downloading and listening. I'm Bruce Wilkinson. He's Nathan Mossman.
You're simply the best.
What a pass here by Christian Cullen. Plenty of support, and what a dummy!